Hi everyone,
my name is Kevin. Today we are going to do an intro to Microsoft Excel or a tutorial of Microsoft Excel. Now whether you're a completely new user to Excel and you've never used it before, or even if you've used Excel before and you're looking to find out about more advanced functionality of Excel, this video is for you. Now my goal is by the end of this video, you will know how to use Microsoft Excel, both the basics and some of the more advanced functionality. So if I do a good job today, you will be able to do that. If I don't, then I'll apologize in advance. Now, one of the first questions you might be wondering is, well, what is Microsoft Excel? Well, Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet program, and with a spreadsheet program, what you can do is you could analyze data in really amazing ways. You could find insights in your data, and you could also analyze trends. With this video, I'm going to cover a whole bunch of content. If there's some content that you're particularly interested in, you could go down to the timestamps at the bottom and you could just click into the section that you care about. If you just want to watch the whole video, that'll really give you a strong foundation in Microsoft Excel, and trust me, if you watch this whole thing, you will know how to use Excel by the end of this. The first thing that we're going to start out with is how do you get Microsoft Excel, and to do that, why don't we jump on the PC and I'll show you how to do it. Here I am on my desktop, and my computer came with Office pre-installed. If you already have Office pre-installed, what you can do is you could simply click on the Excel icon. Excel is the one with an X and it's a green icon. However, if you don't have Office on your machine, what you can do is open up a web browser. I'm going to click into Chrome and then navigate to the website office.com. Once you land on office.com, you'll see two different options. One is Get Office, one is Sign In. If you want Excel on your desktop, what you're going to do is you're going to click on Get Office. Excel on the desktop is the full feature-rich program. There are a few different options. You could get a subscription to Office 365. With a subscription, not only do you get Excel, but you also get a number of other apps as well. The difference between these two subscriptions, with this one, which is a little more expensive, you could share it with up to 6 people total. With the Office 365 Personal, it's limited to just one person. But once again, you get all of these apps, including Excel. If you'd rather just pay for it one time, there's also an option, Office Home and Student, which is $150, and you get Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and you just pay for it once and then you get the software on your machine. Alternatively, what you can do is if you're not interested in paying for Office and you'd rather use it for free, what you can do is you could also use it for free online. The way to do that is on my screen here, what you're going to do is you click on Sign In, and you're going to land on this Sign In page. What you do then is you could sign in if you have an existing Microsoft account. If you don't have an existing Microsoft account, you could simply click on Create New, and then you could create a new account. I already have an account, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type in my account, and then I'm going to sign in, and you type in your username, and then you type in your password. Once you enter your password, just simply click on Sign In, and then you'll land on Office.com. Within Office.com, you'll see all your different apps, and so I could click on Excel, and I could just jump into a new spreadsheet, or I could go to an existing spreadsheet. Okay, so you have these two options. You could get what's called the desktop software, which is included on Windows, which I showed you before, or you could get the web software. So what is the difference? Well, in terms of kind of basic usage of Excel, both of them are pretty similar. You'll be able to do all the basic functionality, whichever one you choose. The web offering is still a lot newer, and so it doesn't have quite the same feature parity as what you'll find in the desktop version, although Microsoft is doing a really good job at adding more and more functionality. If you want to use Excel while you're offline, so let's say you're on an airplane or maybe a train, or somewhere where you don't have internet connectivity, the online app of course won't work because you're not online, and so then the offline version or the desktop software is probably a good choice. So you just have to decide what are your needs and which one do you want to get. Now that we've looked at how you can get Microsoft Excel, the next thing I want to do is why don't we just jump into Excel. And for this, I'm going to be using the desktop software. I'm going to go ahead and click on Excel on my taskbar. I could also simply search for Excel, type it in. It'll show up as my best match, but I'm going to go ahead and just click on it on my taskbar. And the version that I'm using in today's video is Office 365, the version of Excel that comes with Office 365. So this is the latest and greatest that's available.
I think it would be helpful to provide
when you first open Excel, you land on this screen, and this is called the home screen. And so on the left-hand side, you'll see that it's called home. What you'll see on this page is you have a blank workbook that you could jump into if you just want to start from scratch. You also have a number of templates. You have some learning templates. You have a welcome to Excel, get more out of pivot tables. If you're new to Excel, this is a very nice sheet to walk through, and it really does a good job at introducing Excel. You also have a number of templates that you can choose from, and if you want more, you can simply click on more templates. Down below the page, you have all of your recent Excel workbooks that you've been working on. And what you can do is if you don't see it immediately in the list, you can also search for it. So today we're going to be looking at my tutorial sheet, so I can search for tutorial. And what you'll see is it pops up with Excel tutorial, so you could also search the list. What I can also do is I can pin sheets. So here if I click on the pin icon, it'll add it to my pin tab. And then I could also see workbooks that other people have shared with me. Now what I could do is, let's say that I want to see more templates, I could also click on new, and this gives me the full comprehensive view of all the templates that I have, also categorized. And I could also click on open if I want a more expansive recent list, or if I want to open it, say from a OneDrive location or a SharePoint site, or I could just browse my PC for a file. So I have lots of different options to get back to existing content. And one of the fun things is when I worked at Microsoft, I actually got to work on designing this new page, so I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, if you think it's good, if you think that we could improve it even more. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. What I'm going to do for today is we're going to click into this workbook called Excel Tutorial. I've included a link in the description if you want access to this sheet. And we're going to start on the first worksheet called Welcome to Kevin's Excel Tutorial. Here we are in Excel now. This is the core experience that you see when you jump into a new sheet. We're going to click through these different worksheets within this workbook, and if you'd rather jump ahead to one of the sections, feel free to just go through the timestamps that I listed down in the description, and you can jump forward to what you care about. If instead you want to follow it end to end, just keep watching. What we're going to do first is let's jump to the orientation worksheet. So I'm going to jump in here, and the first question is, well, where am I? Right now we're in a workbook, and this is the orientation worksheet. What I could do is I could click on these worksheets, and here what I could do is I could rename a worksheet, I could insert a new worksheet, I could even change the color on different worksheets, and maybe I'll make this one red. Now what is this box called right here? I have all these boxes on the sheet. We refer to one of these boxes as a cell. And how do I reference a cell? Well, so right here, right now, you have things that are called columns. So this is column A, and then this is row 6. That's how a spreadsheet is set up. You have columns, and then you have rows. And so if I want to reference an individual cell, so let's say I'm in this cell, what I would say is I'm in cell C and then 6. So you start with the column, and then you say the row. And you can see up here as well, it says that I'm in cell C6. And what you can also do is you could have a range of cells. So here I'm in cell A8 through C8. So that's how you could reference cells. And I've included this picture of Battleship because when I look at Excel and I think of cells, it very much reminds me of the game Battleship, how you have your columns and you have your rows. It's kind of the same similar idea or similar setup. Okay, so that's kind of just the basics of Excel. What we're going to do next is we're going to click on Format. And let me zoom in a little bit here. What we have is some different ways you could format numbers. And so we're going to have some fun little questions here. So what's my annual salary? Well, what you could do is right now, when you look at this number, it's a very big number because my annual salary is very high. So how do we figure out, how do we view this in a better way? Well, you have different formatting options. So here I could apply an accounting number format. So I'll click on that, and that turns it into a dollar value. I could also get rid of the decimals since they don't really add too much. And that is not my annual salary. I do not make that much. I wish I did, but I don't. When I scroll down the page here, how many subscribers do I get a day on YouTube? And you probably noticed the theme here that these are all made up numbers. But this number is also hard to read. So instead of doing a dollar sign, what I could do is I could add commas, and so here this added a comma to it. Here once again I can get rid of decimals, or I could add decimals, and so it just makes numbers easier to read when you apply formatting to those numbers using this formatting section right up here on the page. What you can also do is, let's say I have fractions, I could apply a fraction format.
This lets Excel know
and
that
the
we're
way to
about
do
to
that is I
enter
simply
in a
click on
formula.
these styles up
Next,
here,
I'll
and as
click
I go
into
down,
cell
you can see
B2,
all types of
and there
different
you see it in the
formats that you
formula.
can
And I
apply,
want
but
to
down
add
here I could
this.
apply
I'll
a
enter in
fraction,
plus
and
sign
that'll say
to
1/2.
cell B3,
So depending on
and I
how
want
you
to
want
add
to see
that
your
to cell
number, you can
B4.
format it in more
Here you
friendly
see my formula
names.
down below. I'll press enter, and there too you
Now
also
another
see
thing that you
the
can do
total was
too is
12,000.
I've entered some
Along with
text here,
addition,
and
you
let's
could
say
also
that
do
right
subtraction,
now all the
multiplication,
text is in
and
this
also
one cell,
division.
but what if I want it to
Now,
cover
that
multiple
was a little
columns?
cumbersome,
So I'll
click
simply
into each
highlight that
individual
first
cell
cell
I
that
wanted
the
to
text
add
is
up.
in, and I'll highlight all the columns I
Alternatively,
want
we
the
can
text to
also
show
use
up in.
something called a
And there's this
function.
option called
One
merge
of the
in
most
center.
popular
So I'm going to go ahead and
functions
click on
is
that.
sum.
And what
Again,
you'll
I'll
notice
enter an
is it
equal
simply
sign
merged
and
all
type in
these
the
cells
function name,
together, and now it
sum.
shows the text
Then I'll
across
open up
those.
the
What I can
parenthesis,
also do is you
and
have
here
other
I can
formatting
pass in
options where you could
arguments,
wrap
basically
text. So
all the
today,
numbers that we
this
want to
goes
sum up.
through multiple
Here,
cells
I'll
off to
simply
the right.
highlight these
I could
three
click on
cells.
wrap text,
So
and
here
what
you
that'll
see
do is it
B2
simply
to
puts all the
B4,
text
and
within
close
this
the
one cell.
parenthesis.
So those
Hit
are a few
enter,
different
and
formatting
there too, we
options. I
also
could
see
also
that the
do
sum
things
is
like
12,000.
I could fill with a
Excel
color,
has
I could
many different
adjust
functions
the
available.
font color.
Up at the
So
very
there are
top,
lots of
let's click
different
on the
ways that I
Formulas
could
tab.
format
And
text
over
and
here,
numbers
we can see
within
some of the most
Microsoft
popular
Excel.
functions that you might
The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to jump into how to adjust
the
the cell
So
size.
it's well worth looking
So
through
here
to see
in my
what you can
sheet,
do
I
with
have this
functions.
table of
As we've been
data,
going through this,
and I
you
have my
might have noticed
columns,
that
I
we
have
have
my
these
rows.
arrows
What
that
you can
appear
do is
next
if you
to our
click in
headers
between a
in the
row,
table.
I could expand
I'll
the
click on
size
one
of the
of the
row,
headers,
or I
and then let's
could
click on the
contract
Data
it.
tab.
I could do the
Over
same
here,
with
you
columns
can
as
toggle
well.
that
When I
on
click
or
in
off.
between
But
columns, I
let's
could
leave it on to
expand
see what they
and
do.
contract
Now,
the
over here,
size
let's click
of
on
the
this
columns.
arrow,
But
and
let's
this
say
opens
that
up
I
a
have a
context menu,
column
and
here,
here
and there's
I can
lots
sort
of
my
empty
data.
space.
So
I
let's
can
sort from
manually
largest
pull
to
it in
smallest.
and make that
So
better,
here I
but
see
maybe I went
December,
too far
which
and
have
I
great
cut off
sales,
some
and then we
text.
have January
What
down
you
at
can
the
do is you
bottom.
could simply double
But
click
let's say I
on
want to
this
restore
separation.
the
So I'm
original
going to
order.
double click,
Here,
and
I'll
it
click on
simply
date,
adjusts
and let's
it
sort from
to make
oldest
sure
to
it fits
newest.
all the text
And
nicely.
right here, we're back
I could
to
also
where
do
we
the
were.
same with rows.
Let's say I
Here I'm
only
going to
want to
click
look at
into the
Q1.
row,
I
and
can
then
click
there I
on
can
this,
reduce
and
the
along
height.
with sorting, I
A
can
quick
also
little
filter
trick
my
that you
data.
could do if you want
I'll
all
click
your
on
data
this
to
to
fit
deselect
perfectly
all
is you
these
simply
dates,
click
and
up
let's
here in the
just
top
select
left-hand
Q1,
corner, and then I'm going to
March,
double
click
click on the
OK,
column,
and here
and you'll
I see my
notice now
first
that
quarter.
all the
And look at the
columns
total row. It also
adjusted
tells
to
me that
the
it was
text size,
12,000.
and then I
So
could do the
another way to
same with the
calculate
row,
that.
and it'll adjust all the
I'll click on
rows.
this again, and
So
here I
kind
can
of a
clear
nice
the
way
filter.
to simply
Up to
format
this
your
point,
data.
we've just been looking at
What I
all
can
of
also
our
do is,
data
let's say
in
I'm
a
working with my
tabular
data
format.
and I want to
But
insert a column.
sometimes
Let's
a
say I
picture
wanted some
or
other
a
value
chart
in between
is
model
worth
and
1,000
color.
words.
I could simply right
Let's
click
go
up
to
here
the
and I could
Insert
go
tab up
to
on
insert. So
top.
let's say I
And right
insert
here in
another
the
column,
center, you'll
and
see
then I
the
could go
option
in between
for
rows and I
charts.
could do the
We
same
could
where I
insert
right
a
click and then I
recommended
could
chart, or
insert
we
and then
could
it'll
choose
appear
one
right
of these
above.
many different
If I
options.
wanted to say add
I'll
another
click on
vehicle, or
recommended
maybe I want to
charts,
add
and
some
here
other
recommends a
attribute
line
about the
chart,
vehicle.
which
So that's how I
works well
could
with this type of
manipulate
data.
data
I'll click
on
on
a sheet.
OK, and this
Okay,
inserts
so
the
that's a
chart
little
in.
bit about
And now
formatting,
we can
adjusting
visually
cells,
see
and
what
all
sales
that.
were like
But
throughout the
the
year.
true
It's a lot
power of
easier to
Excel
parse the
comes from
data.
using functions
Up on
and
top, we
formulas.
have
So why don't
all
we
sorts
do
of
a quick
different tools that we
tutorial and
can
we'll
use
look
to
at how you can
customize
use
the way
those.
this chart looks.
I'm going to click into this basic formula sheet, and what I want to show is, let's start off with just basic addition. So I'm going to click into this cell, and I want to add 5 and 4. Now, obviously, I know what that is. And so a quick little trick is I could highlight those two cells, and then if you look down here in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see some information about it. So the sum is 9. I have 2 numbers that I've selected, and the average is 4.5. So just kind of very quick information that you can get when you highlight numbers. But now what I want to do is I want to add these, and so we're going to go through the basics of how you create a formula. And the way you always start a formula is you start with the equal sign, and then what I can do is I'll simply say, one way you could do addition is you say 5 and then plus 4. So I could do that, and that'll tell me 9. But the power of Excel comes from referencing these different cells, and so I'm going to get rid of these numbers here. And what we're going to say is I'll say equals, and then I could simply click on A2, and then I could say plus A3. And so what that's going to do now is it simply adds those two cells together, and it tells me that it's 9. Now, what I could also do is instead of going through, like here, I have a few more numbers that show up. Instead of going through and saying, hey, I want to take this, plus this, what I can do instead is there's another formula called sum. So I'm going to type in sum, and then I'm going to open parentheses, and now what I do is I simply highlight all the items items that I want to sum. And then I close the parentheses, hit enter, and there it's
another
added
item
up
like
all
let's
the
say the
values.
date, and I could drag
Now what I
that
can
down
also
as
do is I could
filters.
also type in
Here,
equals
I can click on
sum,
this drop down,
and I can do
just like
that
drop down we
across
saw earlier,
these
and
numbers
let's
which are
filter just to
horizontal.
January.
And I'll
Now
close
click
the
on
parentheses and hit
Here we
enter,
see
and now it
those
added up all
1,000
these
sales that we
numbers.
had in January.
Now a nice little
Let's remove
shortcut,
the
and this is
filter
kind of
over
more
here.
of a
I'll
pro
drag
move.
that
What
out.
you can
Again,
do is you
do
simply
all
press
this
the
analysis
Alt and
just
the
by
equals
dragging and
key at the
dropping.
same time. So I'm going to press
Let's
Alt
take
and
the date
equals,
and drag it
and you'll
down to the
notice that
rows.
it
Now, this looks
automatically
very similar
sums
to what
up
we
all
had
those
on
values, and I
sheet
can
one,
hit
where we
enter.
have the date
If you're
and then
not
also
big
the
into
sales.
learning formulas or
Now,
remembering
instead of putting it
remembering
down this
formulas,
way,
what you can also do is up here in the right-hand corner, there's something called auto sum. So if I click on that, I could simply click on sum, or I could go through and we could do average.
And it doesn't require much effort to do that.
You could go through and do average. You can also count the numbers that appear within there. And you could also do the max and the min. So there are lots of different functions you could just automatically apply. Take some of the most common ones and presents it within this little auto sum list. What's also nice with the sum function, so I'm going to do equals sum again. What you can do is you can highlight a set of numbers, and then I'm going to enter a comma, and I can highlight another set of numbers, and I'm going to hit a comma, and then I'm going to select another number, then close parentheses. And what that did is it added up all these different numbers. So I'll click into the formula field, and you can see all the numbers that it added up. So pretty powerful. Now, what would addition be without subtraction? Well, here what you could do is I could say equals this cell and then minus this cell. And there it subtracted the two. You could also multiply. If I click on this one, the asterisk is the multiply sign, and I'll click on this next cell, and that'll multiply the two. And you could also divide, where I click on 100 and then /10, and that'll divide 100 by 10, which is 10. And I showed you earlier with this auto sum, what I could do is I could click on average. That'll give me the average across those numbers. I could simply go up here and I could click on max, and that'll give me the max of all those numbers. And here I could count all the different numbers that appear within this set. So using Excel, it's very easy to use Excel. When you use functions and formulas, you could really do some nice kind of calculations on your data on a sheet. When I think of Excel, it's really like a very powerful calculator.
I'll see you in the next video.
Okay, now that we wrapped up on basic formulas, now we're going to jump into fill series, and I'll kind of walk through what I mean by this. So let's say I have this table of data. So it's a car dealership, and I want to know what my profit margin is. Well, to calculate profit margin, you want to take the price and you want to subtract the cost. So here I'm going to enter a formula again. I'm going to type in equals, and then we'll take cell E4 minus cell F4. And so this is my profit margin. Now, what I mean by fill series is, see that little plus sign? If I double click on it, it'll simply take my formula and apply it all the way down. So here, if I click into this cell and I click into the formula, you'll notice that what it's doing is it's taking this value minus this value. So it basically took my formula and applied it all the way down, which is pretty nice. Now, one of the things I might also want to do is, let's say I want to do my profit margin less Kevin's fee, because maybe I own this dealership and I want to get paid for every car that gets sold. The price minus the cost, and then here's my fee. So I'll minus my fee there. And now I could copy the formula all the way down. Now, one of the problems is when I go to the second cell, you'll see that it moved all of these down one. That's called a relative cell reference. What I want to do is I want it to keep this reference to this spot. And what I could do then is I'll go back to my original formula. You could insert a $ before the management fee, before the letter and before the number. And what that basically tells Excel is that you want to fix the position of that cell when you do your calculation. So I'm going to hit enter, and now I could apply that again. And here, if I go into the last cell, you'll see now that it locked the management fee, but the price and the cost, or the calculation for the profit margin, adjusted based on where I was in the sheet. That's referred to as a relative reference, and then I have my absolute reference there. What I can also do, just a little shortcut, if you hate entering $signs, you could also press the F4 key when you're hovering over this value, and that'll automatically toggle back and forth between an absolute reference. And you could also just do a $sign for a row or for the column, depending on how you're filling your formula. So there it is. One of the things I can also do with this sheet, I can also transpose the data. So right now you see that the data is organized in kind of this vertical orientation where I have my column headers and then the data down below. But maybe I want to have my column headers on the side instead of above. So what I can do is I can highlight all my data, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to paste. So I'm going to go up to paste, I'm going to click there, and I'm going to go to paste special, and now I'm going to go to transpose. And so I'm going to click OK, and you'll see what happened is it transposed all my data. So now all of my columns are now rows, and all of my data now appears going this way. So it's a nice way if you want to adjust the orientation of your data. And Another thing that I want to show with filling data is Excel is pretty smart when you fill data down. So here I have Q1, and maybe this is the total number of sales I sold each quarter. So if I click on Q1, and once again I'm going to click to drop that down, Excel is smart knowing that if there's a Q1, well, there are going to be 4 quarters in a year, and it automatically increments that by 1. So when you fill with Excel, it's pretty smart about how it fills. The next thing that we're going to look at is how to split data. So I'm going to click into the Split Data tab. In here, one of the things that you'll see is I have first name and then I have last name. What I would like to do is I want to separate these by first name and then last name. So what I can do, this is a really neat thing to separate data. What you can do is click on all these names, and then we're going to click on the Data tab. And within the Data tab, we are going to click on something called Text to Columns. And what we're going to say is this is delimited. So I'm going to click on Next. And the way that they're separated is there's a space in between them, but you could also do it by tab, semicolon, comma, or any other way that the data might be separated. So I'm going to click on Next then. And for the destination, what we're going to do is right now it wants to put it in A2. What I'm going to say is let's put it into B2. So basically I want the data to go into this cell, and I'm going to click on Finish, and what you'll see happened is it just separated all of my list by the space that appears, and it split them up between first name and last name. So kind of a nice way you can manipulate your data. The next thing that we're going to look at is filtering and sorting data. This is something that I really love and really helps me look at my data in better ways. I click on the filter and sort, and what I can do now is so I have this data table of all these different cars, models, colors, mileage, price, and costs. And what I can do is I'm going to go up into the data tab up on top, and I'm going to click on this thing called filter. So we're going to apply a filter, and what happened is it added this little drop down with an arrow on top of all of the different columns. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what you'll see I can do is I could sort now. I could sort A to Z, I could sort Z to A, I could sort by different colors if I had colors there. So let me go ahead and I'll just sort by the name. So here I sorted from A to Z, and so now it starts with Chevrolet all the way down to Toyota at the bottom. What I can also do is I could sort from largest to smallest, or smallest to largest, or largest to smallest. So here I'll see, which one cost me the most, which one costs the least. So you could sort your lists by largest to smallest. What I can also do is, let's say that I only want to see my Chevrolets in this list. That's called filtering. So what I can do is I'll click on this again, and here you'll see all the different unique items that appear within this list. And so I'm going to click on Select All to deselect all these items, and here I could click on just Chevrolet, and I'll click on OK. And now what that's done is it's filtered my list just to my Chevrolets. What I can also do is if I click back on here, I can maybe just see my Chevrolets and my Dodge, and then I'll click on OK. And once again, it filtered the list, and here I could sort it. So my Chevrolets are together and my Dodges are together. And so that's just a quick overview of how you can filter and sort your data. You could also sort up here. There are also some advanced sorts where you could sort based on one thing, and you could add another level. So let's say if they both have the same make, then you sort by model. So you could do some things like that, but you could play around with it and play, just see all the advanced power of sorting. The next thing that we're going to look at is creating tables in Microsoft Excel. Now, what's the value or benefit of a table? So I'm going to go here, and I'm back on the Home tab, and I'm going to click on Format as a Table. And we'll just go with, I'll go with the light design. And my table has headers. Okay, so I've just inserted it. So the benefit is that it's a little easier to read, where each row in the table has this color that's been applied to it, so it's easy to read across. What you can also do is, let's say that I expand. So here, if I click down here, I could expand my table by 1. And maybe I want to call this my margin column. And for the margin one, we did the formula earlier, but I'll take the price minus the cost, and I'll hit enter. What happened is I don't have to drag it down because it's a table. It knows that this formula applies to every single item in the table, so it automatically applies it to the entire table. It's kind of nice. It saves you some time if you know all the data is related. And one thing that's really cool, I didn't actually know this until recently, but something I think is cool. Up here under table design, there's an option called total row. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And so see what happened is it added a total now. So my total of all my margins is about $12,000. If I click on that value, I get this little drop down, and I could say, well, what's my average? What's my average margin? Or what's my max margin that I have? Or I can just say, what's my sum? So with a table, you can also very easily calculate sums. The next thing that I want to show you is how to do quick analysis in Microsoft Excel. So I just clicked on quick analysis, and one of the things that we could see is, here back to my car data, I have all these different costs, but let's say I want to visualize very quickly which one is the most expensive, which one is the least expensive. What I could do is I could right click on this and I could go down to quick analysis. And so with quick analysis, I could also click that button. So here, if I highlight the data, you'll see this quick analysis button. So I'll click on that and I could add data bars to my data. So here I could see, the more expensive ones have the larger data bar behind. I could also apply a color scale. And so there are many different kind of quick analysis tools that I could use when I'm looking at my data, or maybe I just want to identify my top 10%. So just kind of a nice little quick way to analyze your data. The next thing I want to show is ideas, and ideas is something new in Excel. It's up here on the home tab, and you just click on ideas. This is part of Office 365, and what it does is it'll analyze all my data that I have, and it comes up with interesting insights based on it. So here I can see by color, what is the cost. This one's interesting. Price and field. Cost appear highly correlated. So the cost and then the price of the car appear highly correlated. The black Toyotas have a noticeably higher cost. And so what it does is it goes through my data and it finds different outliers in my data. So it calls out kind of interesting insights to me. So that's kind of a fun thing to run against your data to see if there are any interesting insights that might be there. Okay, now that we've looked at ideas, we're going to go into charts, and I'm going to show you how to create basic charts in Microsoft Excel. So I have this little table here with, I have years on the left-hand side, and then I have conference attendees on the right-hand side. And so what I could do is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on Insert, and then under Insert, I'm just going to click on Recommended Charts. And what you'll see is it just gives me all these different charts that I could insert. And the first one looks pretty good. It shows me attendees on the y-axis or the vertical axis, and then it shows me the years on the x-axis or the horizontal axis. And so I'll just say OK. And this inserts a very basic chart for me based on my data that I have over here. What I can also do is I'm going to go back, and let's go back to Insert. So here I have the same data that I had above, but now we had food sales in different years. And so what I could do is I'll go back, click on Recommended Charts, and this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on All Charts, and I could do a combo chart where I have two pieces of data that I want to chart out. And so food sales, maybe I want to make that a secondary axis. So this is my primary one. This is my secondary one, and so my food sales are now against the secondary axis, and I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And so this is kind of a nice view where, here I could see the attendees, and then I could see the food sales against the number of attendees. So just kind of quick charts. What I like doing with charts is anytime I insert a chart, I like playing around with it. Here I could click on Change Chart Type, and I could go through and you could try different views to see kind of what type of view you like, and just kind of experiment with it, see what you like, what you don't like. It's pretty powerful in terms of what you can do. The next thing that I want to show is how to freeze a pane. And here I have, once again, I have all my car data in here, and I have a lot of data. So here I'm scrolling down. I have hundreds of rows that show up. And unfortunately, when I scroll down, I don't know what column D is or what column E is or what column F is. It would be nice to have the header stick with the data. And I can do that with something called freeze panes. So if I click on, I'm going to click on View, and then you have this option called Freeze Panes. I'm going to click on that, and what I could do is I could freeze the top row. You could also do things like freeze the top column, or you could simply choose where you want to do the split. But I'm just going to do the top row, and so I froze the top row. So you see that line there is a little darker than the other ones, and now when I scroll down, you'll see that my column header stays in place. So kind of a nice way, especially when you're looking at a large set of data, to know what that data is that you're looking at. The very last thing that I want to show is pivot tables, and I have a whole separate video on pivot tables that goes really in depth on this topic, but I wanted to do just a quick overview of what you could do with pivot tables, because this is really getting to more advanced levels of functionality in Excel. So here in Excel I have my car data again, and what I'm going to do is go back to Insert, and now I'm going to insert a pivot table. And so it selects my data, selects the range, everything looks good, and I'll click on OK. And so what this did is it creates something called a pivot table. I see all my data here, so all the columns appear within this pivot table fields. And now I could do things like, I could drag my color down to a row, and I could drag, let's say, my total cost by color, so I could drop that in values. And so what that did then is, here are my rows. Here's my total cost. And so I could see by cost. So for all my black vehicles, this is the sum of my cost. And you could kind of do neat things where you summarize by, well, let me see the count of vehicles that I have by color. So what I wanted to do is just give a very quick preview of pivot tables. You could feel free to play around with them and kind of see what the capabilities are. I also have a few additional videos down in the description and in the comments down below with links to more in-depth overviews of what are pivot tables, how do you do conditional formatting, how do you use formulas like VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP and things like that. So there's a lot more that you could do with Excel beyond this. Well, that's the end of the Excel tutorial. What I wanted to do is just give a quick overview of kind of the core fundamental functionality of Excel, as well as give a little kind of peek at some of the more advanced functionality. I have more videos that go more in depth on that advanced functionality. For example, if you want to learn about VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP, or if you want to learn about pivot tables or conditional formatting or a lot more functions and formulas, I have videos that cover all those topics, and I've included links in the description if you want to check those out and really increase your expertise in Microsoft Excel. But with this video, this really covers most of the fundamentals on a day-to-day basis. This is most of the stuff that I use, and it really helps me use Excel in a really good way, and really helps me analyze data, identify insights, and all of that. Excel is a super powerful program. Hopefully this video helped you really kind of build your skills in Microsoft Excel. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a question in the comments. I always read all the comments that come in, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, please hit that subscribe button. That way you get a notification anytime new content like this comes out. And if there are any other questions or any other topics that you want to see me cover in future videos, feel free to leave a comment down below, and I'll add it to my list of videos to create in the future. And that's all I had today. Hopefully you're well on your way to becoming an expert in Microsoft Excel, and hopefully it's going to help you either be successful in your professional life by being able to analyze data better, or maybe in your personal life if you just want to analyze different, maybe your finances, maybe you're buying a house like me, and you want to look at the data and evaluate things. All right, well, that's all I had for you today, and I'll see you next time.